Fortresses fall, empires vanish, friends betray, but solitude cannot be stolen. The world demands your attention, your energy, your soul. Yet only in the silence of staying alone can you finally claim yourself, unshaken, untouchable, unbroken. This video will reveal why solitude, through Schopenhauer's lens, is not weakness but ultimate strength. This knowledge is for self-protection, not isolation that leads to harm. You suffocate not from silence, but from the endless noise of other people's demands. You feel it pressing on your chest, pressing into your mind. The crowd is not just outside you. It lives in your head. Crowds are seductive. They offer you comfort, a sense of belonging, a stage on which you can perform. But beneath that stage, your individuality bleeds away. Every laugh you fake, every nod you force, every shallow ritual you repeat, it carves pieces off your soul until nothing unique remains. Schopenhauer warned that most people are incapable of deep thought. They move in circles of distraction and repetition, incapable of looking beneath the surface. They chase what others chase. They admire what others admire. They fear what others fear. And when you stand among them too long, you inherit their shallowness like a contagion. Imagine this. A young thinker is invited to a banquet. The hall glitters with chandeliers, polished silver, the sound of music in the air. He sits among nobles, merchants, chatterers. The jokes fly, the wine flows. He laughs along, though every word insults his intelligence. He forces himself to smile at conversations that never leave the surface. He feels the ache of solitude inside the crowd, an ache deeper than silence could ever give. He leaves that hall with a bitter taste of emptiness, realizing he betrayed himself more than anyone else betrayed him. You've been there, maybe not a banquet, but in a room where everyone laughs at the same dull story, where everyone competes for attention, where the loudest voice passes for wisdom. You nod, you smile, but inside, a whisper tells you, this is not your place. And yet you stay, because the crowd teaches you that silence is dangerous, that solitude is failure, that if you step away, you will vanish. But the truth is the opposite. Constant exposure to others doesn't strengthen you. It dilutes you. It makes you reactive instead of sovereign. You live by their tempo, not yours. You fight their battles, not your own. Think of the man who spends his evenings scrolling through endless conversations, believing he is connected, yet never producing a single thought of his own. Think of the woman who cannot bear to eat alone, surrounding herself with chatter, yet never once hearing her own inner voice. Machiavelli observed that rulers must sometimes mingle with crowds to maintain control, but never belong to them. He knew the difference between presence and surrender. He knew that the prince who dissolves into the masses loses authority before he loses his throne. The Stoic Marcus Aurelius offered counterpoint. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. His reminder was clear. Time is too short to be wasted on trivial company. So how do you resist the weight of crowds? Begin small. Spend 1 hour today without devices, without people, without noise. Let silence test you. You will feel restless, maybe even anxious, but push through and you will feel something rarer, the return of your own presence. Drop this affirmation. I would rather stand alone in truth than drown in the noise of the crowd. You are not built to be dissolved. You are built to be distinct. The crowd will always try to pull you into their shallow rituals, their illusions of success, their borrowed ambitions. But every moment you resist, you reclaim a piece of your sovereignty. And once you've tasted that sovereignty, you will never again confuse noise for strength. You will never again believe that the approval of many outweighs the clarity of one. The banquet is ending. The music is fading. The laughter is hollow. Step outside into the night air. There, in the silence, you breathe for the first time. And yet, this is only the beginning. Because solitude is not just escape from the crowd. It is a gift. A power waiting for you in the silence. And that is where we turn next. When you are alone, there is no mask, only the raw mirror truth. The world falls silent, and suddenly, every borrowed identity collapses. No role to play, no title to hide behind. Just you, staring back at yourself. Solitude strips away the costumes you wear for survival. At work, you wear efficiency. With family, you wear loyalty. In society, you wear manners. But when the door closes and the noise dies, those masks peel away. You are left with the naked self, the one you often avoid. And this is both terrifying and liberating, because here lies the paradox. You spend your life trying to find yourself through others, yet only in solitude do you meet who you truly are. You confront the flaws you usually disguise with humor, excuses, or distraction. You confront the desires you bury under busyness. You confront the wounds you keep stitched with noise. Alone, there is no escape. Alone, there is only confrontation. Picture a soldier returning home after years of war. The comrades who carried him through battle are gone. The chants, the orders, the chaos of the front vanish. He sits in his room, stripped of armor, stripped of duty. The medals lie in a box. The uniform hangs untouched. He stares at himself in the mirror, and the silence is unbearable. Who is he now without the battlefield? What remains when the war is gone? The soldier faces not the enemy outside, but the one within, the self he abandoned while wearing the mask of survival. This is a moment solitude delivers. Not war against the world, but war against your own illusions. You've known this in smaller ways. The student who spends years defining herself through grades, only to sit alone after graduation, and realize she has no idea who she is without a report card. The man who builds his identity around his job, only to lose it and discover that behind the title, there's only emptiness. Machiavelli noted that many prefer illusion over truth, because truth makes them powerless before their own weaknesses. And he was right. Illusion offers comfort. Truth offers confrontation. But confrontation is the only doorway to transformation. The Stoics insisted that self-examination was the daily duty of the wise. Epictetus declared, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish." Why? Because facing the unpolished self means you will seem strange to those still clinging to masks. But it also means you are beginning to live authentically. The danger of avoiding this mirror is simple. You will live your entire life as a stranger to yourself. You will fight battles that are not yours, chase goals that are not yours, wear identities that suffocate you, and in the end, you will wonder why you feel hollow. But the courage to stand before the mirror, in silence, with no excuses, that is the beginning of authenticity. Practice it tonight. Sit with a mirror for 10 minutes. No words, no phones, no distractions. Just your reflection, your eyes meeting your own. You will notice discomfort at first. Your flaws will surface. Your pretenses will crumble. But keep staring. Let the silence sharpen you. What you fear seeing is exactly what you must face. Drop this affirmation. I am strong enough to face myself without disguise. This is a liberation Schopenhauer spoke of. Clarity destroys illusions faster than comfort ever could. And only the self seen alone can be transformed with honesty. Not the self applauded by the crowd. Not the self shaped by expectation. The real self, untouched, unmasked, undeniable. This is why solitude is not a curse, but a crucible. It burns away every disguise until only truth remains. And truth, though sharp, is the only foundation strong enough to build upon. Yet facing the mirror is only half the path. Once you see yourself clearly, you must learn to detach from what chains you, the approval, the applause, the need for permission. Solitude does not just reveal the self. It trains you in detachment, a discipline the crowd cannot tolerate. And that is where we must go next. Creation does not come from noise. It comes from silence. Alone, you stop consuming the endless chatter of the world, and you begin producing something that might outlast your very heartbeat. Solitude is not a barren wasteland. It is fertile ground, where concentration deepens into vision, and vision hardens into creation. Everywhere you look, people are distracted, fractured, broken into fragments by constant engagement. Notifications, conversations, demands, all pulling them outward, never inward. But creation demands the opposite. It demands focus so complete that the world vanishes, leaving only you and the raw material of thought. Schopenhauer knew this truth. He linked solitude directly to genius, declaring that only those who retreat from the crowd could shape new realities from a mind. Noise may inspire imitation. Silence inspires originality. Think of Beethoven. a man slowly losing the very sense upon which music depends. Deafness closed him off from the world, cutting the strings of ordinary conversation, leaving him trapped in silence. Yet from that silence, he descended inward, deeper and deeper, into the well of imagination. At his desk, he heard symphonies no ear around him could hear. He wrote what no audience could yet grasp. Each note forged not from sound, but from a solitude so profound it transcended loss. What emerged was not despair, but creation eternal. The music that still floods concert halls centuries after his bones turned to dust. His solitude was not a curse. It was a forge of immortality. This is the paradox of creation. What looks like loneliness from the outside is often a crucible of transformation within. The artist alone at night, with a blank canvas. The philosopher pacing his room, words unspoken but burning in his skull. The scientist scratching formulas on a page while the world mocks or ignores him. All of them share one secret. Solitude is not emptiness. Solitude is a condition of creation. Consider the mathematician, exiled from institutions, working in obscurity on problems no one else cares about. Years later, his discoveries become foundations for future science. His solitude protected the purity of his thought. Or the poet who refuses the endless social gatherings, choosing instead the quiet of a small desk by candlelight. Her verses, born in silence, pierce more deeply than any conversation ever could. Machiavelli, ever the strategist, offers sharp warning. Men in power must not vanish into silence, for his appearances that move nations. He was right in his domain. Leaders shape destiny through theater, through visible gestures that bend perception. But the Stoics will remind you that appearances fade while substance remains. Seneca wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." His message was clear. Scatter yourself in endless activity and you will create nothing. Focus, detach, withdraw, and your work will endure long after theater has turned to dust. So, how do you begin practicing the sacred solitude? Start small. Tonight, create something only you can make. Write a page in a journal. Sketch a scene that exists only in your mind. Draft the first outline of a plan you've long postponed. Do it in silence, not for approval, not for applause, but to feel the power of creation flow through your hands. Drop this affirmation: I create in silence what will outlive the noise. Because this is the essence of solitude, the alchemy that transforms loneliness into contribution. The crowd consumes. The creator produces. The crowd clings to distractions. The creator retreats, shapes, and returns with something new. You were not born to drown in noise. You were born to build something the noise cannot erase. But solitude's gifts do not end with creation. Once you begin producing instead of consuming, you will discover an even darker, sharper edge, the ability to perceive patterns hidden from the distracted. That vision is where we now turn. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is command. The final reward of solitude is not loneliness, but sovereignty, the ability to rule yourself where no one else dares to tread. In that hush, you discover a form of power few ever taste. Freedom that does not depend on applause, wealth, or the shifting tides of human approval. When you are alone, you stand as your own master. No external voice defines your worth. No fragile relationship dictates your identity. Silence becomes armor, and solitude becomes a throne. You learn that sovereignty does not mean ruling over others. It means ruling yourself so completely that no one else can. Schopenhauer taught this with relentless clarity. True happiness is not found in dependence, but in self-sufficiency. What the world offers, it can quickly take away. But what you root in silence cannot be stripped from you. Picture this: a stone monastery, carved into the side of a mountain, shrouded in mist. Inside, a monk walks slowly along a corridor. No sound of laughter, no music, no conversation. Only the echo of his sandals against the stone floor, only the beating of his heart. He has been exiled from the world, cast into silence many would call unbearable. Yet look at him, unshakably serene. Where others would feel abandoned, he feels sovereign. His peace is not granted by society, so society cannot destroy it. His silence is his fortress. His solitude is his crown. This sovereignty is not reserved for monks. It is available to you. When storms of conflict surround you, solitude gives you resilience. You bend, but you do not break. Others panic when approval disappears, when trends shift, when their identities collapse. But you remain, because you're built on stone, not sand. Think of the writer who refuses to chase fashion, retreating instead into silence. Decades later, their work resurfaces, stronger than the fleeting voices of their age. Or the solitary craftsman, unknown to most, whose creations endure long after louder names have been forgotten. Sovereignty of silence produces endurance. Machiavelli, ever pragmatic, warned of the dangers hidden here. Sovereignty without alliances may leave you strong, but dangerously isolated in conflict. He saw power as dependent on networks and strategy, on appearing connected. He was right in his realm, but the Stoics provide a counterpoint. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind that is self-contained needs nothing." The emperor-philosopher knew that while alliances may matter in politics, in the arena of the soul, sovereignty rests on silence alone. How do you taste this sovereignty? Begin with a small test. Tomorrow, practice 1 full hour of deliberate silence. Do not speak, do not post, do not explain yourself. Let the silence surround you like armor. At first it may feel strange, even suffocating, but soon you will feel it harden into strength. Drop this affirmation. In silence, I am sovereign. Do not mistake this sovereignty for isolation. You will still move among others, still face the world, still speak when it matters. But the difference is this: you will no longer be ruled. Silence will have trained you to be ungovernable by shallow trends or hollow approval. And sovereignty has one final gift, the vision to see through illusion. For once you master silence, you begin noticing the hidden currents beneath human noise. This is where we must go next. You arrive at the end of solitude's journey, and the silence that once unnerved you now reveals itself as a throne. The chatter fades, the demands dissolve, and you discover that the greatest crown is not given by the world, but claimed within yourself. This is sovereignty, and it is born where no crowd can follow. To live alone, even for an hour, is to step beyond the reach of other people's currencies. Their applause cannot inflate you. Their scorn cannot shrink you. Alone, you are your own master. No external power defines your worth. Silence becomes your armor, and in that stillness, your rule begins. Think of it. The crowd obeys fashions, rushing like cattle through gates designed by others. But you, seated in solitude, do not move at their command. You resist their urgency, their constant performance. This is why solitude is feared, because it breeds men and women who are ungovernable. The silent do not dance on command. The silent are not slaves. Picture the monk in his monastery, shrouded by stone walls, walking corridors where no voice echoes except his own heart. To the world outside, he is exiled, forgotten, even pitted. But watch his face, serene, untroubled, unshaken. He has mastered a realm no army can invade. No ruler can tax, no mob can corrupt. His silence is not absence. It is sovereignty. The same pattern repeats through history. Marcus Aurelius, commanding Rome, wrote his meditations in quiet moments away from the Senate, wrestling not with enemies but with himself. Beethoven, deaf and isolated, composed symphonies the world still bows to. Silence forged their rule, not applause. And in your own life, you sense the same truth. Your strongest decisions were born not in noise, but in quiet rooms where you answered only to your own conscience. Everywhere you look, the fragile build their identity out of mirrors held up by others. They are praised, they glow. They are mocked, they wither. Their sovereignty is counterfeit, borrowed, and collapses the moment the crowd turns. You, however, in silence, learn another path. You stand without mirrors. You rule without approval. Machiavelli warned that sovereignty without alliances may leave you dangerously exposed. A ruler without allies may be powerful but isolated in conflict. He was right. Political survival often demands a theater of appearances. Yet Schopenhauer drew a sharper distinction. Happiness is not a political strategy. True happiness is self-sufficiency, not dependence on fragile arrangements. Between the two, you must learn balance, appear when necessary, but root your power where no hand can reach. The Stoics echo this lesson. Epictetus declared that freedom begins when you no longer need what does not depend on you. Silence makes this real. In stillness, you train to want less, to expect less, to suffer less. You detach, not out of disdain, but to rule yourself where no one else can intrude. Now imagine a writer. Year after year, publishers reject him. The crowd dismisses him. Critics sneer. But in solitude he continues, turning wounds into words. He births a new form, something the world never asked for, but now cannot forget. His sovereignty was not in pleasing the world. It was in refusing to bend before it. Or imagine yourself deciding not to post, not to explain, not to seek validation. At first, the silence burns like fire. But wait, it hardens into strength. You begin to realize how little approval you truly need. This is a discipline. Practice silence not as withdrawal, but as construction. Take one deliberate hour tomorrow with no speaking, no posting, no explaining. Let it feel strange. Let it even feel like death. And watch. On the other side, it will feel like rebirth. In that hour, you will feel the pulse of your own sovereignty. Drop this affirmation. I do not need permission to rule myself. Because this is the truth. Storms will come. Crowds will shift. Empires will collapse. But your foundation, if built in silence, remains untouched. A man who rules himself is never homeless. A woman who masters her silence is never unarmed. This sovereignty is not given, not borrowed, not fragile. It is yours and yours alone. And as you sit in the stillness, something else becomes clear. The journey of solitude is not only about withdrawing from noise. It is about preparing to create, to lead, to act without dependence. Silence is not escape. It is power concentrated, sovereignty distilled. But here lies the challenge. Sovereignty carries weight. To be your own master is to bear the burden of no excuses. When you fail, there is no one left to blame. When you succeed, the glory is yours alone. Silence strips you bare, but it also crowns you. That is the double edge. So the next time the crowd demands your performance, remember the monastery. Remember the deaf composer. Remember the emperor writing in solitude. And remember that sovereignty is not in being seen, but in ruling unseen. The applause fades. The silence endures. And if you dare, you may discover what few ever touch. That ruling yourself is more intoxicating than ruling any kingdom. That silence, terrifying at first, becomes not your prison but your throne. That solitude, scorned by the many, is the secret citadel of the strong. And when you walk back into the world, carrying that silence like armor, you will see the crowd differently. Their noise will not tempt you. Their approval will not bind you. Their rejection will not wound you. You will move through them as sovereign, untouched, unshakable. Because in silence you have learned the final lesson. The only power that cannot be taken is a power you claim when no one is watching. And from here, the path sharpens. Sovereignty is not the end. It is the beginning. The question is, now that you rule yourself, what will you create? What will you become when silence itself bends to your command?